Hi everybody, welcome back to Lockdown Lessons Part 21, our first of 2021 ironically, and with me today I've got Joel Aldridge from Hiring People. So firstly, I just wanted to say hello to you, Joel.
Hello, Phil.
Hi. So firstly, just for people that don't actually know who you are and what you do, could you explain a bit more about Hiring People and what you do within Hiring People and your role, in other words?
Sure. So my name's Joel Aldridge. I'm director of a business called Hiring People, which we set up back in 2013. We'd noticed at that time that small businesses were still heavily reliant on recruitment agencies, which can, of course, be very expensive. So we felt that with a little bit of support from us and access to our buying power with the online job boards, we could save them a fortune on recruitment fees. So just to put that into some kind of context, typically a client will send over a job role. We'll help them to write that job advert. So very important, obviously, to make sure that the content's engaging, but ultimately we want to structure it in a way that attracts the right type of people for that role. And then once we've agreed on the content, we launch out to as many job boards as we can. And from our client's perspective, it just means they reach as many job seekers as possible, and ultimately they're benefiting from our buying power and the discounts that we get.
Fantastic. And I mean, I've obviously used you before to recruit, Joel, and it was what I found interesting was the fact I could get so many CVs delivered to me online. I think my attitude and beliefs about recruitment were a little bit old school before I dealt with you. So it was a really successful process. I operated with you, and also I've still got the person that I recruited working with me today over 14 months on. So all going very well with that. So just if we could cast our mind back now to March the 23rd, to the first lockdown we were in, at what point did you think that this might be a problem commercially for you, or at least the fact that you might need to change in one way, shape or form?
Yes, so I think it was about a week before lockdown. We saw about a 50% drop in job adverts placed, and that was a pretty clear indication to us that businesses were going to be acting cautiously. And over the next couple of months, I think, the amount of job adverts placed dropped by about 95%. And then we saw a curve, an upward curve throughout the summer. And then towards quarter four, we're actually much busier than we were this time last year, which is interesting. And the sort of semi-lockdowns that we've had in between then haven't really affected us, which is it's obviously people just getting used to the current environment, I guess.
I agree. I think the problem was, I think a lot of people, because we'd not experienced this before back in March 23rd and just a couple of weeks after that, I think a lot of people adopted the sort of like the freeze sort of mentality, fight, flight or freeze. I think people often adopted that, like, just don't do anything. And maybe we can ride this one out. Then when I think we realised that we were in it for the long term, we thought, well, hang on a minute, we can't just freeze forever. We've actually got to do something, which takes me on to the next question. So how did you adapt to the situation that you were in back in sort of March, April then, Joel?
Yeah, so I mean, we're in a fortunate position in that, firstly, we're an online business, and secondly, we work across all industries. So we are able to, firstly, identify the areas that we knew would be busy, that would still need our support during that time. For example, social care and transport and logistics, and we focused our energy there. We set up weekly reports with the support of our suppliers, just having a look at where most of the job adverts were being placed, just to make sure that we kept on track, really. In addition to that, I spent the time between April and May, which was very quiet, speaking with strategic partners, developing those relationships further, and also seeking out new partnerships as well. So that would typically be an organisation that might share a similar client base, and it would be a case of getting in touch and seeing how we could help each other. And I found that to be very effective, actually. And a lot of those new relationships were through my B&I network, which you all know is obviously a global networking group.
Fantastic. So what sort of wins did you experience as a result of this change in direction for you, Joel?
Yeah, so we didn't see it coming, but we've been very busy with our clients in the trade sector. So plumbers, plumbing, heating engineers, painters and decorators, and general builders. So it would seem that despite the possibility of hard times ahead, the British people were keen to invest in home improvements. And yeah, we've done a lot of advertising there. And of course, transport and logistics and social care as well, through the other efforts that we did.
Good, good. So what would you say the issues that you had to overcome were during the last sort of 9, 10 months then?
I think the biggest issue, or what seemed to be the biggest issue for us, was negotiating with our suppliers. We buy thousands of job adverts from all of the UK's leading job sites, and that comes at a huge expense. And if we don't get through them, the credits, we lose them effectively. It's quite harsh. There's a bit of flexibility. So that was a major concern, but ironically, as it turned out, by the end of the year, we got through most of them anyway. So it wasn't such a problem, but it was pretty scary at the time.
Okay, so what sort of changes have you made during lockdown to hiring people that you're basically going to continue doing as a result of the enforced changes that you've had to make?
Yeah, so we haven't made any changes to the service as such, because I think we've got something that works for small businesses. What I did do though is realign my team so that we could provide more managed services, and a managed service, by the way, is where we do the job advert, but we also provide support through filtering the CVs and booking in the face-to-face interviews with our clients. And that area of the business has really grown for us. And as a result, we're now looking to recruit somebody else into the business to support that demand.
Great, and that's great news. I always like hearing success stories during lockdown, because I think a lot of people, they focus too heavily on the negativity and what's going wrong and what's outside our control, when there are plenty of opportunities out there. And I appreciate certain sectors have struggled more than others, but it's good to hear that you've adapted and you've made some changes. So what would you say you've learned most about yourself during this time then, Joel?
On a personal level, Phil, or business level?
Yeah, personal level, let's say.
But personal level, on a personal level, I guess not a lot, really. I think it's just confirmed that I'm content with my family and surroundings. Sounds a bit corny, but content with my and immediate surroundings. I think. I guess on a business level, it's more that when you're stuck at home and you're working and the day can quite easily drift away, I think it's important to have structured appointments in your diary. It gives you something to focus, to keep you productive, and also some e-learning as well at the end of the day, just to kind of give you some ideas and keep you inspired and kind of gear you up for the next day, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I first started my business, when ultimately it doesn't matter what business you're in, when you first go into business, you're in sales because you haven't got any clients, right? And I think those are the days where you haven't got structured appointments in your diary, that days can drift away and you feel as though you're being super productive, and actually you're actually being productive doing stuff that isn't actually helping you move the business on at the rate that you want it to move on. So I totally agree with that. So what was just cast your mind back to sort of, I think it was June, July time when we actually came out of the first lockdown. What was the first thing you did once you were released into the wild, shall we say?
I think it was my birthday, and we went to we're still being pretty cautious. We've got the in-laws living opposite as well, and we see a lot of them. So we were still being pretty cautious. I think we went to the National Trust Gardens, and probably a few beer gardens in the weeks and months as well that followed.
I think, yeah, casting our mind back now, we know we're in another lockdown. It's sort of you start to question that could I have done more with the limited time we had? Should I have gone out more? And you sometimes look back at every day you've actually had where you didn't actually do much as a day wasted, almost more so than you would have done in any usual year, right?
Yeah, well, I remember at the time thinking, well, at least we're having the lockdown in the summer. Here we are again.
But, here we are again. Hopefully not for. I think we're over the worst of it now. Hopefully, so we shall. I'm looking forward to the next year anyway. I know the next couple of months are going to be tough. There's no two ways about it, especially for a lot of people. But yeah, I think we can see a way out now, whereas maybe when we were in the middle of it before, we couldn't see a way out because people were talking about vaccines maybe taking sort of 3, 4, 5 years to develop, and that was a really worrying sort of stat that came out. But yeah, just to wrap up then, really, Joel. If your ideal customer is watching you now, what would your ideal customer look like? Who are you aiming to meet, and who would you like to speak to as a result of this discussion we're having now?
I think really a small business, perhaps they are looking to recruit 5 to 10 roles in the next year. Small business experience growth that perhaps, yeah, five to 10 roles to recruit over the next sort of 12 months really is probably our ideal customer. And as I said before, it doesn't matter what industry that they're in, so yeah.
Okay, good stuff. Is the geography of any relevance at all?
No, well, it's just got to be UK.
Okay.
Anywhere across the UK is fine for us. So
okay, so when you say, just a quick question on that, when you say a small business, if I'm thinking of a micro business, a one man or one woman band, if they were looking to recruit somebody, just a single person, you'd be happy to speak to them, right? But when you mention your ideal customer, a small business that's looking to take on between 5 and 10 people, are you looking at businesses maybe sort of 20 people up to 100? Is that what you mean?
Probably. I think it's difficult to say on the size of the company, because you might have an accountancy practice and they could be huge, but they have a very slow turnover of staff, whereas you might have a home care organisation and they may only have a few full-time employees, but they're constantly recruiting care assistants. So an accountancy firm, we might want to be connected with a firm that maybe got a few thousand employees, but with a social care organisation, they may be too big for us because their recruitment levels might be too high, if that makes sense. And the reason we focus on small businesses is because they stand the most to benefit from our buying power with the job boards. That's kind of why on that area. I hope that makes sense.
It does. I know that I think I looked at advertising on a specific job board cost more money than speaking to you. And you weren't actually just advertising on that job board, you were advertising on sort of 6-7 others as well. So it made it a no-brainer from my point of view. So okay then, Joel. So just to wrap up then, if anyone wants to contact you at Hiring People, just to find out how you might be able to help them find their next recruit, what's the best way they can reach you?
Our clients engage with us in different ways. I mean, on our website, hiringpeople.co.uk, you can see our prices outlined clearly in a table with the sites that we include. So a lot of our clients buy online. You can always just give me a call. I'm always happy to have a chat just to sort of explain the process, or drop me an email.
Good stuff. Well, no problem. Well, after this, I'm just going to drop your contact details in the comments below. Okay. So if anyone wants to reach out, they've got all that information to hand. So for now, thank you so much, Joel. It's been a pleasure speaking to you as always. And yeah, catch up soon.
Yeah, speak to you soon, Phil. Thanks again.
Care. Bye.
You take care.
Brilliant.